What's up, folks? Today I want to share with you a few tips and tricks I use to keep myself from getting bored in The Sims. I would say these are relevant to The Sims 2, 3, and 4, and hopefully these tips will help you out because when you spend hundreds of dollars on a video game for entertainment, you really don't want to get bored. That's pretty sad.
There's people that are dying.
Let's go ahead and start with number one, which is to stop making perfect Sims. I know this is hard. I'm guilty of doing this in the past as well, but I've found that when I have Sims with quirky traits, they're just so much more memorable, and I feel like certain combinations of traits can create the most dramatic Sims ever. So hear me out. In The Sims 3, for example, there's a variety of different traits that I would consider to be more on the quirky side. Some of my favorite ones are ones like technophobe, coward, dramatic, never nude. The list goes on and on. For example, in my legacy challenge, one of the most memorable Sims I had was a Sim who was a technophobe, a never nude, and like a few other things, but I found that those two traits really complemented each other. So those traits in combination with their other ones really made her a very conservative and prudish kind of Sim. So a good combination of traits really can help develop your Sim's whole story. So in terms of the traits that can create more polarizing Sims, I would say hot-headed is a big one, mean-spirited, inappropriate, sometimes evil, but not always. I might be missing a few, but those are some of the ones that really lead to more, polarizing Sims. I've had Sims with those traits who've had bad relationships with pretty much everyone that they've ever encountered, so definitely randomize them traits. Moving on to number two, I would recommend not using money and needs cheats. Obviously you can play however you want to, but The Sims is a life simulation game and survival is pretty much what it's all about. So keeping the motives up is definitely a big challenge. And I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, when my Sims get too rich, I get bored, it's not fun if they're not poor. And I totally get that. But what's great about The Sims 3 in particular, but as well as The Sims 2 and The Sims 4 is that in The Sims 3, you can invest in properties, which are super expensive. You can buy vacation homes, custom content cars are a big one for me. In The Sims 2, you can open a business. You can also buy vacation homes. I actually made a whole video about investing in The Sims 3, so I'll link that down below. So moving on to the third tip. This one's sort of abstract, but it's to set goals. So some examples would be things like saving up for a renovation or a new car or to buy a vacation home. That's definitely been a big one for me. I had this goal to buy a vacation home in every, World Adventures world. That was a challenge. That was not easy, getting the visas and stuff. So those are good ones, but it doesn't have to be money related. It could be about mastering a skill, or recently I had a Sim who I was bound and determined to complete the ice personality sculpting skill challenge. That was a huge one and it was so much fun and so rewarding to be able to complete that. Maybe you want your teen Sim to be valedictorian. So just having things to work toward that are not just, getting married, having a kid, getting a promotion, and obviously not picking the easiest and most attainable lifetime wishes is a big part of that too. I've really been working on that myself in my legacy challenge, picking lifetime wishes that I've never done before or that seem more challenging. So definitely recommend that. Moving on to number 4.
I will never forget what you said to me. I could quote it like yesterday. You need to get a hobby.
Getting a hobby outside of your Sim's normal job is super fun. To give you some ideas, and I know I keep using my legacy family, I'm just like so into them at the moment, but I had a Sim who was in the film career, she was a director, and then as her hobby, she had a big garden where she had tons of grapes, and then she was using those grapes to make nectar. I had a Sim who was a criminal who wrote like horror novels on the side. I had another Sim who was an astronaut who was big into sculpting. I had another Sim who was a scientist and she also did like inventing and she did like chess tournaments and stuff. So having a job outside of your Sim's normal like rabbit hole or 9-to-5 job, I think is a really great way to, again, add more challenge to the game. And if that hobby has a certain skill that's related to it, which it probably does, I would say those skill challenges are another great way to spice up your game and great goals to work toward. So definitely get a hobby hobby, which brings me to number 5. And I know that this one is probably like meh for some people, but I really like playing with opportunities. I think there's an option to turn opportunities off, but I always play with them on, even though some of them can be annoying. Like I always get 2 of the same ones, which are to work out for 4 hours and to dance for 3 hours at the nightclub. But besides those, there are some really interesting ones that you can get. For example, I mentioned I had a sim who was into sculpting. She got an opportunity to bring wood sculptures to the criminal warehouse, and the opportunity had a whole backstory about how the criminals were using the sculptures to smuggle goods, basically like a Trojan horse kind of moment. I thought that was so cool. And also I've had sims who work in the criminal career who have opportunities to do like heists and bank robberies and stuff. I know I've talked about it before, but there are painting related opportunities that can make you 6 figures, which is amazing. I also have a video I'll link down below about 5 ways to make money quick in The Sims 3, and opportunities are definitely a great way to do that. Recently in my legacy, I actually had a sim who met her husband through an opportunity, so I thought that was pretty cool. So that is it for my 5 little tips here. Let me know what advice you have for spicing up your game. If you found these tips helpful, please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.